Hello, everyone, and welcome to LFC Transfer Room. If you're wondering why we're about 20 seconds late, it's because the arguments have already started whilst we've been talking about this is my favourite stream of the year. This is the Premier League predictions, best signing, youth player, who's going to break into the LFC first team, what are Liverpool going to win, and I will tell you now, I'm pretty confident we have a secret Arsenal fan in our mix. When I've seen some of the predictions, and I will out this secret Arsenal fan when we get there. But today, to help me go through these predictions and to try and justify some of their guesses, I am joined by Drew, Dan, and Harmony. Drew, you're on your phone, but you look it's best picture we've ever had. How are you feeling, mate?
Oh, man. It shows you how much of a technological Luddite I am, but doing good. I'm excited to get into it a bit. Harmy just made a bold claim. We'll get to that.
But, no, don't try to put me out there. No, don't even try. Don't do that. Let's not do that. Let's not start.
We'll wait until we get to manager sacked first, because that is a bold claim, but we'll come to that a little bit later.
I got that right.
Dan, how are you doing? You got your drink? You ready?
Yeah, I got my drink. I'm good. I'm just building a new desk for the wife, and I've been my life has been solely consumed by Baldur's Gate 3 because Lord knows there's nothing in Liverpool transfer headlines right now that's making me happy. So I gotta find something else to make me happy.
Oh, we've not signed a 6 yet. Oh
no, we have.
I don't know. Have we, James?
No, we've not signed a 6.
No,
it's Jay Speary.
Is Google? What was the name of it? Google.
Google Pixel.
Yeah, Pixel. Yeah, that's.
Hey, listen. If Google, I just know Google Pixel's worth billions of dollars. So that's I think that's a good reinvestment. Like there's a potential investment there.
Yeah, that's a 6 right there. You know what I mean? Helping us out.
Yeah. Well, we're going to start the first prediction or the first question that we've got. So please, if you're in the chat, let us know what your prediction is. Even if you're part of the LFC transfer room and you've got your prediction on here, champions, who do you think is going to be the champion in the 2023-24 season? Please put it in the chat. Let us know what you think it's going to be. Now, there are 3 names that have come out in the LFC transfer room. And Harmony, you've gone for the one that has the most responses with 12. Who have you gone for Premier League champions 23-24?
Man City, unfortunately, but still, yeah, Man City.
And why do you think they're going to win? I mean, they're losing so many players. Do you just think it's momentum?
I think it's the momentum. I think it's the manager. I think it's just the culture of the club now. They're just so used to winning. They know how to do it. Like, they can come from behind and win it. They can start, off the gate and just blow every single team out of the water and win it. So there's not really any weakness in that team, to be honest with you. Unless you have a season like us, like we did, that season where we were just literally unbelievable. There was no team that could stand in our way. Not even Man City could stand in our way. Unless you have one of those seasons, I don't see any other team winning the Premier League. Arsenal, I don't think they're going to get close because they've got new players. They've got embedded into the team. Rice is still looking a bit shaky. Timber's looking okay, and Havertz, is just him. But anyways, so I don't really see Arsenal getting close to City. And I think City's, even though it looks like they got weaker, I think they're bringing in players as well that are going to add strength and depth to that team as well. They got Guardiola. I don't even think they needed him, but they just got him. They got Kovacic.
Kovacic.
He's a brilliant player, even though he can't score as many goals as your Gundogan. He's a great player, great detail to play. He can keep the ball. He can keep the ball ticking, and so I can still see City winning the whole thing. To be honest with you, they got the best defense as well. To be honest with you, so
right. So ignoring what Harmony's got to say, because nobody wants Man City to win the league. Me and you, we've gone for Liverpool to win the league, and 8 of the LFC transfer room, 12 have gone for City. 8 of us have gone for Liverpool. The chat looks to be going more City ways.
You shameless guys. You two are so shameless.
Hey, I voted Liverpool too. It's all 3 of us, Harmony. You're outvoted here.
What's the point in going into a Premier League season, Drew, without believing you're going to be champions?
I know. I'll throw a Harmony one. Yeah, everything he says is right. Like, I'm voting from red tinted glasses on Liverpool winning the season, but I happily and proudly do it because I think Liverpool is the only other team that can take Man City down. They're the only one that's done it. You could say Chelsea did it when Pep's first year, but I don't think that really counts. But for me, Arsenal don't have the mentality to do it. Like, they showed that. They didn't collapse in, like, the final, like, in the last 2 days. It wasn't like us pushing City to the last day of the season. It was like a point. It's like Arsenal imploded, and I don't think they fixed that with the signings they brought in. Havertz, can't really score. We'll see if he turns out well. Gabriel Jesus already started the season injured. I don't think he's the goal scorer they need. I'll be curious when we go for flops of the season when you get to mine, because I put a bold one out there. Liverpool, though, is the only other team that can do it, and as a Liverpool supporter, I believe we can. Less and less so as we don't bring in a 6 each day, but
we've not signed a 6 yet.
We haven't signed 6 yet, but Klopp can work miracles. That doesn't excuse FSG, but they're the only other team that can beat City, and I think Liverpool can do it.
Well, not according, Drew, to our survey. 3 of the LFC transfer room believe Arsenal are going to do it. Now, I think we've got a secret Arsenal fan within our group, but we'll come to that a little bit later. Dan, do you see Arsenal getting anywhere near? Matt actually chose Arsenal to win the league.
I think it's going to be very...
Just putting that out there to Americans.
I don't claim him as an American. Like, he's rejected his citizenship. He can go somewhere else. I mean, honestly, I think it's right now Arsenal are in a very weird position where they had a really, really good run last year, but they really only played like 15 players. It was kind of going back to like our 13-14 season where we pretty much did a title run based on like very few players, like not even close to a full 18. Arsenal right now have maybe 17 to 18 decent players, but the drop off after those 17 to 18 is massive. Like, you're looking at playing Mohamed El Nini in midfield. You're looking at playing like a youth player that's not Florian Balogun at striker without Gabriel Jesus. I think there's an argument that Arsenal could be a title challenge up until December, and then after December they drop off.
So do a full Arsenal, basically.
Well, pretty much, yeah. But I think a lot of the Arsenal title shouts coming from the fact they signed Declan Rice. And listen, Declan Rice is a really good player. I think he's going to make Arsenal good. Or well, good. It's going to make them better. He's a better version of Granit Xhaka, and they still kept Thomas Partey. But the problem is that Declan Rice is not the person who's going to be scoring 30 goals for Arsenal. You know, if you look at what is Arsenal's plan to score, let's say 80 goals a season, you know, they're relying on 80 goals to come from the likes of Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, Jesus, and I guess Emil Smith-Rowe. I mean, if he's playing, I think he's even the backup now as well. So what is Arsenal's plan to score that many goals? Really comes down to like 4 or 5 players scoring double digits. So I feel like, and that is itself reliant on Jesus itself. So I don't see Arsenal really competing beyond like January, February. I think they'll drop off.
Yeah. They don't. I agree. I don't think Arsenal have a machine scorer, someone that can score and win at 1-0. I think that's probably where they lack. Okay, so next question, and please put it in the chat. Top 4. Which 4 teams do you think are going to be in the top 4? Now, there's a few different variations, and one of them we will come to towards the end. But the most popular one, and looking at it, Dan, you've gone for this as well, is a Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, and Manchester United top 4. So that's no Newcastle, no Chelsea. Dan, why have you gone for that top 4?
Well, Chelsea are a mess right now. So, I mean, like, you know, consider the fact that Nkunku's out to October. You know, I kind of wish now I took the United one back because it looks like Rasmus Haaland is also out for a bit as well because they still like Arsenal. Like, for some reason, these clubs are signing players that are already coming in with injuries as well. I chose United over both Chelsea, Tottenham, and Newcastle because Newcastle are going to the Champions League, but they don't have a Champions League squad. So there is very much a reality where Newcastle goes to the Champions League, gets third, has to go to the Europa League. and they're fighting on 3 or 4 fronts, but they don't have the players to compete with that. Again, Newcastle was a lot like Arsenal, where they got on a run of really being able to get some results. But one, I don't think Eddie Howard's a good enough manager to get them through those situations. And two, again, it just comes to strength and depth. Like, yes, Newcastle have a good 15, 16 players. After that, they're really struggling. Even though they signed the signings they made with Sandro Tonali and, who else have they signed? Am I missing someone besides Sandro?
The Leicester player, I can't remember his name, the winger.
Harvey Barnes. And Harvey Barnes,
yeah.
and Barnes is a good player, but they still don't have like that strength and depth that you would want from a side that is going to be challenging for top 4, challenging in Europe, and potentially challenging in cup competitions.
Now, Helly also points out something here in his prediction, Harmony, and it's something that myself, Charlie, I think Matt's also gone for. And I don't know if you went for it as well, which is Aston Villa to make a run into the top 4. Because for me, I always think there's one team that attack the top 4, and I think Aston Villa are the one with momentum. You think it used to be West Ham, but they've gone all toxic and the fans are all angry and it's just going to be an absolute show. Do you think Aston Villa can do it? Do you think Aston Villa can get into the top 4, or is that just a little bit too much of a push?
I think it might be a little bit too much of a push for them. I think they probably need probably 2 more summer windows or 3 to get to that level where they're challenging for the top 4, even top 5 now. I think they are going to get the Europa League spot. I think they'll probably finish 6th or 7th in the league this season. They could be pushing for 5th because they got a really good team. They got a really, really good team. They made great signings and they got a manager that's got them ticking and playing really great football. So they could be a surprise, and they could be the one to watch, honestly, this season, because that team has everything to really achieve good things this season. So I think it's still a little bit too early for them to challenge top 4, but I can see them getting there at some point in the future. For my top 4.
Jen, as always, thank you very much for supporting the channel. We always appreciate it. Now, there's one team, Drew, that haven't come up. None of the fans, none of the votes, nobody said it. Spurs. Nobody thinks it's going to be a good year for Spurs.
Yeah, I don't see why anyone would. Like last season when Harry Kane scored over 30 goals and they still couldn't do it, what more do you need? What more are they going to get this season that could push them up the ranks? I think they brought in a few players who could potentially do a job, but we still don't know with Harry Kane if he's leaving or if he's staying. That's uncertainty there, and even if he stays, the 30 goals he scored last year, you need Heung-min Son to come up. Unsure about him. He had a terrible season last season, but even still, it's like every other team is pushing the ranks. The fact that we're talking about Newcastle and Aston Villa, Brighton, even for making challenging seasons, Tottenham just seems to be kind of lost in the mix, and deservedly so. I don't think they've done enough to put their name up into a contention for top 4 at all. So no surprise for me that they haven't been mentioned.
Jen, we will come to news at the end, and we'll do a quick review of news at the end. There's no major updates on that particular one, but something may happen while we're on stream. We never know every day. But we are going to carry on with the predictions, and Relegated 3 is the next sort of prediction. So please put it in the chat. Let us know who you think the 3 teams relegated are going to be. It was a bit of a spread around with the guys in the transfer room, but 3 teams got the most votes, and that was Luton, Sheffield United, and Wolves. Now, Dan, you went for that as well, same as me. To me, that looks pretty nailed on. Wolves are in disarray. Luton are nowhere near it. Sheffield United haven't really signed anyone, so they look like they're pretty much dead and buried. Why did you go for those 3?
Well, Luton really haven't done a lot to improve that squad from a championship squad to a Premier League squad, and I think Luton is just doing the Huddersfield Town from a couple years ago, where it's like you just get into Premier League, you get the money, you bank all that money, you go back to the championship, and then you just build from there, because Huddersfield had used all that money to go into their academy, which Huddersfield's still a championship club, I believe, unless they got relegated last time I checked. But Sheffield United have absolutely no money. this is something that they have said on the their fan cast, the Blades fan cast, is that they had like a budget of like £20 million to spend on players, and they've sold Sander Berge to Burnley, and I think Sheffield United again is just banking all their money and going back down. Oh yeah, I forgot they just signed Russ Buckley today as well. That's a very weird signing, but again, like that's more of like Luton's going up, having a good time, and probably going back down. And Wolves are just an absolute mess. Like I had read something 3 or 4 weeks ago that they were an absolute mess because I was wondering why Wolves haven't done anything yet. And I think they signed Gary O'Neill, who is a good coach, for the idea that if they go down, they'll come back up.
Now, Harmony, I'm going to come to you because this is the first hot take, and this is Drew's fault. Drew had selected Crystal Palace to go down. And before you answer, Drew, I'm going to let Harmony tell me what he thinks.
Wow, that's a bold statement. Honestly, that's That's a bold statement. Yes, I know they lost a great player, their best player, to be honest with you, but I don't see them going down. Honestly, I really don't. I don't see them going. I actually see Burnley going back down, and that's me being honest. I don't see them maintaining, staying up, because I think my prediction, which I predicted, I'm not going to say it now, but also when we get to the subject, when it comes to their manager, I think they're going to struggle because of that, because they might lose their manager and they might have to bring in a new one, and that usually doesn't really work out. And depending on where they are come Christmas, it might be difficult for them to stay up. So yeah, that's what I put. But I don't see Crystal Palace going down at any point. Wow. Oh, interesting. I don't. Why does everyone want to see Crystal Palace going down? I don't see why.
Drew is the only person in the LFC transfer room to predict Palace to go down.
All right.
Now, Dan, I'm taking your American card away here. It might just be him.
Let him explain.
All right, we'll hold. Thank you. I have been known to make good claims before as well, James. Just saying. But Crystal Palace for me, honestly, if I gave it more thought, I would have gone with Wolves. So I'll give myself that out. But I still defend Crystal Palace going on because they have lost some of their biggest players. And for me, I'm reminded of Roy Hodgson. I think he has done an amazing job with Crystal Palace and teams like West Brom before. But I think he's extremely old. And if the ship starts buckling, I'm reminded of his time at Liverpool, where it just absolutely capitulated. I don't think if they have a tough start to the season that he'll be able to rally them. I think unlike last year where he was brought in to kind of steady the ship, like steady hands. But after the kind of upturn of the club and just the removal of some of the best players in the team, I think if he can't get them hitting the ground running or find a stable sort of that it can easily capsize, and then players will just lose faith in Roy Hodgson. And like Harmony said, like when you're starting to chop and change managers, I don't think it's easy to keep the ship afloat. And that is why it's an outside chance. It's a bold claim, but I still think that could be the bogey that Crystal Palace go down.
Now, let us know in the chat, which do you think is a more outrageous statement, Palace to go down or Brentford to go down? Now, you're on mute, Harmony.
Brentford. Demo, me and you have a conversation. I'm gonna call you after the stream because we need to have a serious conversation. I don't know what's going on, mate. I know it's depressing being a Liverpool fan right now, but you need to stop this. It's outrageous. But yeah,
I think his rationale is all around Tony not being available till January. But
I mean, Brentford have a lot of really old players right now. They have a lot, like eight of their starters, 6 to 8 of their starters are like 32 to 33. Like they have a very, very old team as well, and it might just get a little bit too hard for them.
Now, whilst Drew tries to work out how to put his camera back onto landscape mode, I'm going to ask people in the chat. Then the next topic that we've got to cover is Premier League Player of the Season. So which player do you think is going to end up winning Premier League Player of the Season? Now, as you can expect when you start to look through how people submit these types of things, people spell things completely differently. But there are 2 names at the top. One is the robot. One is the Egyptian. Which one did you go for, Harmony? Did you go for Salah? Did you go for Haaland? Or did you go somebody else?
I went for the Egyptian king, our king, Mo Salah, because I think because of the addition that we have in the team with the midfielders that we're gonna have, that we're gonna bring in, and a rejuvenated front five, I think he's gonna get a lot of assists, a lot of goals, and having that front five, the dynamics in that front five is just gonna give him so much more space because you just ain't got to worry about Mo Salah. You got to worry about Diaz. You got to worry about Nunes. You got to worry about Gakpo. You got to worry about Jota, and you got to worry about Slobosai. You got to worry about McAllister. So that's going to give a lot of teams problems actually just marking Mo Salah because he's our dangerous player. But because we have all these other weapons around him that he can utilize and he can that can just bring out the best out of him, I think he's going to be a dangerous player this season. So I have him winning it.
Salah was my pick. I think the pressing that I saw from Salah in the last game, I haven't seen Salah press like that in a few years. I think he won the ball back twice, gave it to Jota in goal-scoring opportunities. I think Salah is absolutely ready for this. But Drew, I did say that we've got a secret Arsenal fan in ours. And I'm not going to out the Arsenal fan until we get to the end, but they've picked Saliba. Centre-back, player of the season. All these strikers, all these winners, all these goal scorers, but he needs to be an Arsenal player, so they've gone for Saliba. Any chance of player of the season for you?
No, that's a bit of a joke for me. I think a lot of people forget too with Arsenal's kind of capitulation. They all put it on Saliba getting injured, but they were scraping by games like when he was still in the squad. That second half of the season, was it February, March? Like right before he got injured, they were winning like 2-1 or coming back from behind, the 3-2 games, like where he was still in the squad. And I don't think he's not the levels of Van Dijk, where Van Dijk came in and absolutely bossed it, changed things, brought us to a Champions League final, won the Champions League next year, Premier League, etc. Like, I don't think he's that level of center back. And as far as a player of the year shout, I don't think he's anywhere near the kind of player who influences a team or a run like that, where he's going to put in performances that get Arsenal the league or trophies at all. I know everyone knows I hate Arsenal, and that's fair, but I'll stand by that stake, and I don't think they win anything this year. I think they're going to get top 4 and get back to where they should belong.
Now, the name that came out third, Dan, was Trent. People going for, if it's not Salah, it's not Haaland. Obviously, we're Liverpool fans, so probably we're going to pick our potential player, which is Trent. I don't know who you picked, but do you think Trent could do it? If this inverted right back works and he's playing like he did towards the end of the season?
Yeah, Trent could do it. I mean, I went for Kevin De Bruyne just because, Kevin De Bruyne always gets like 15 goals and 15 assists every season with City. And even though I picked us to win the league, I think that De Bruyne is always, as long as he's fit, he's always going to produce like absolutely ridiculous goals and assist numbers as well. And I feel like if Kevin De Bruyne is the player of the season for City, then we'll probably end up winning the league. So that was kind of my logic to it. Obviously, yeah, I think Trent could do it because I think he can put up De Bruyne numbers in terms of assists like easily. The goals is, again, that's kind of one of those things where if we get Trent closer to goal, I could see Trent getting 10 goals a season. That's the only way I could see him winning player of the season if he gets 10 plus goals and 10 plus assists.
So Kev, you picked Kevin De Bruyne. Drew's got John Henry's internet connection. Nobody's really standing up for the Saliba shout. There is one guess for Dominic Szoboszlai, and there is one for Martin Odegaard, who I think are potentials. Gakpo's another one where I think some people think he's going to have an absolutely fire year. But I think it probably is going to come down to probably those 4: Kevin De Bruyne, Haaland, Salah, Trent, for me. Now, then when we move to young player of the season, this is where some of the LFC transfer room have got a sense of humour because Lavia has been picked. He's not even a Premier League player at the moment. But who do you think is going to be the Premier League young player of the season? Please put it in the chat. We'll go to that. And looking at the responses, they seem to be spread all over the top. The couple for this is the thing. There's a couple of bids for Saka. There's a couple of bids for Haaland. Saka seems to be the one that's coming out on top. How many is he? Is he a youth player or is it just an easy guess?
What for the player of the season?
Young player of the season.
Young player of the season. I think he's gonna get that Trent treatment where he might not win it because did Trent win it? Young player of the season. Has he won? I don't think he has won it, has he? No, he hasn't. No, yeah. I don't think he's gonna get that treatment because as in terms of that, he's so good and he's so mature for his age that they don't see him as a young player anymore. And they just treat him like he's an older player. So I think he can get that treatment. So that's the reason why I can't see him winning it. Who did I put to win it? I put
I'm just looking now.
It was Garnacho, wasn't it?
How many young player you have gone for? Lavia,
okay, yeah. I see Lavia winning it because of the dynamics of how
the fact that he's not signed for a Premier League club.
Yeah. Even though I know he hasn't signed what he's signed for a Premier League club yet.
He'll be the championship player of the season for Southampton as they run away with the title.
He could be, but I think if we get him, that's an if. If we get him, I think he's going to be really, really important for us and really, really, really vital in terms of how he's going to help us, how he's going to break down plays, how he's going to progress the ball forward for us as well. And I just feel like he has the talent, he has the mentality. All he needs is just a good team around him, a good manager to help him, and this guy can take over. So I can definitely see him winning it if we sign him. If we sign him. Again, emphasizing the if. But yeah.
How many has the spare 5 million Lavia money?
Yeah, I got it in my pocket. Don't worry, man.
I'll tell you what, Helio's gone for Guardiola. Nobody else has picked that. Drew, that's a good guess, actually, isn't it? Nobody else has picked him, but actually, I think he does classify as a young player playing in the Man City team. They're definitely going to be up there. There's a strong chance he could be young player of the season.
That's a solid shout, especially if Man City go ahead and at least do a double. If they win the league and he's a big part of it, that's a really great shout because he definitely could come in and take the league by storm, make Man City a very tough back line. They already have a decent one, but yeah, that's a really good shout. I wasn't really giving that one too much time. I'll reveal who I put because it's a bit of a joke, but I put in Cole Palmer. I don't think it's as big a joke as I'm letting on, but I think especially since Riyad Mahrez left, Bernardo Silva looks like he's staying, but
think he'll get some game time.
I think he could. Like, I think the Community Shield shows like he's got levels. Like he can come in. Pep was putting him in at certain games in the season, and he was doing bits for the most part. It might be a step too soon for him, but that was kind of my offhand throw out because I wasn't sure how old everybody was. Like Saka, for example, I thought he might have aged out and didn't really put the time in last second to check everyone's age, so I threw him as a bit of a curveball.
I tell you what, there's just a lack of effort there, Drew. Dan, I'm going to give you some of the random names that we've got. Julio Nisco, Jeffrey Archer, not Jeffrey Archer, Julian.
Cameron Archer. Cameron Archer.
Jeffrey Archer,
Villa,
right
yeah.
foot. Alvarez, Rico Lewis, Evan Ferguson, and someone chose Connor Bradley. Tico chose Connor Bradley, who I don't think will win Young Player of the Season. But of that list, who do you think actually that's a good name to bring up?
I think Archer's the best one. I feel like if you look at Villa's preseason, if you listen to Villa's fans, how they talk about Archer, it's how we talk about Ben Doak, but has the finished product as well. I could see a situation where Kevin Archer comes to the Villa with a 4-4-2, and he scored. Who would he be paired with? He'd be paired with. Why am I forgetting his name now? Because I love him. I'll remember
Watkins,
in a second.
Ollie
Who's the other
Watkins.
striker? Watkins, Ollie Watkins. So I feel like it's a situation where Watkins gets 13 goals and Archer gets 15 to 18, and everyone's just like, oh my God, who is this kid? And next thing you know, like Chelsea are linked with him for like 80 million pounds to Aston Villa as well. I think Cameron Archer is a really good shout. The one player I put on there that no one seems to talk about, and I guess it's because we didn't sign him, was Levi Colwell, because I feel like Levi Colwell is going to be the best player at Chelsea this year. Like, I know they signed 40 players, and they've loaned out 20 of them to Cherbourg and League. But I feel like Kevin Archer is a good shot. I don't think Ferguson's going to work out at Brighton, because they still, as far as I'm aware of, they're still playing Danny Welbeck ahead of him as well. I think Ferguson's a good player, but I don't see him scoring more than 11 or 12 goals than what Neil Maupay scored.
Oh, I'm a massive. He's only 18 though, isn't he?
Yeah, he is only 18, but I think Archer's going to do way more than that, because I feel like Unai Emery. If there's one thing Unai Emery knows how to do, and we didn't, I feel like he became a laughingstock because of Arsenal. But one thing he knows how to do is build a team around this is how we want to attack, and I feel like he knows exactly what he wants to do with Ollie Watkins and Cameron Archer.
So the next question on our list is Premier League top scorer. Now, big shock. There's two names at the top of that. With actually Erling Haaland coming out on top. Now, Harmony, you went for Haaland. Why do you think he's going to outperform Salah this year? Because that was the other big name.
I think because I only see that because Salah's going to spread out his workload. It just won't just be goals; it'll be assists as well. So that's the reason why I'll have Haaland above him. And I would have put Kane, but I see him leaving. I generally see him leaving Spurs this season. If it wasn't for that, then I would have put Kane in there. But Haaland is just a machine. I'm sorry, the guy just can score goals. He just knows where to be. He knows how to position himself to get the goals. And yeah, the Viking, honestly, the guy is just he's incredible. I can't even lie. Yes, people call him tapping merchant, but I'll have him all day long for him to be scoring those type of goals for us. So yeah, and you got the likes of Kevin De Bruyne behind him. That's going to provide him with a lot of assists. Phil Foden, the likes of Grealish, even though I don't really rate him that much, but yeah, like this he's going to get a lot of goals for them, just like he did last season. So it won't be a surprise if he wins it.
Now, Dan, you must be sitting, quite uncomfortably with this conversation, because you really have parked yourself really hard on that fence, putting two players down. You're going for a joint Haaland Salah 26 goals each.
Well, I mean, so I put both Haaland and Salah at 26 because I feel like, one, I don't think Haaland's going to score as many goals as he did last season, because if you look at Haaland's stats year on year, from his first year, he always explodes, and then he starts to drop by 3 to 4 goals, so he starts converting less and less because teams figure out how to play around him. For me, I think Salah's just scoring 26 goals. I don't see it, for me, it'll be between the range of 22 to 28. I just went for 26 because it seemed to me like this seems like the number that makes the most sense. I think it's going to be a weird situation because I think Salah's going to break Thierry Henry's goals and assists record, where he's going to get 26 goals and 20 plus assists this year. Because the way we play now is that he's going to create so much for the players. He's going to have so much more space to work with. There's so many other players around him that can score, that can stretch the play. This is, I know it sounds bad. We're looking at a situation where Liverpool could have 5 forwards score double digits easily in the league. And I'm talking not 10, I'm talking 15 plus. Gakpo could score 15, Diaz can score 15, Nunez can score 15 to 40 at this point. And, obviously Salah. And, we can throw in the conversation, no one mentioned Ben Doak as the Young Player of the Year, but Ben Doak could come in and score 3 to 4 goals. And I think if they score that, that's not even an amazing scene. That's just what I expect they can do, because we've seen how well they can create and score for each other.
Now, Drew, a couple Gary, Darwin Núñez, 40 goals. James Núñez, unsurprisingly, Matty he's gone with Darwin Núñez. I'm surprised Jen in the chat hasn't gone for Darwin Núñez. Darwin Núñez for top scorer? Do you think he'll get the games?
No, I'm actually with Jay, back with his unpopular opinion. I believe me and him thought he just wasn't the right fit. I think he can do a job for us, and I think he will do a lot better this season. But I just don't see like changing. It seems like we'd have to change our formation a bit to suit him. I think unless he plays off the left, which he does really well, putting him up top is hit and miss, especially since we don't have a six. I think that false nine position with like a Gakpo he can come back a little more and maybe help with the transitions. But I just don't see. Darwin hasn't given me the evidence besides that one stretch before he went away with Uruguay that he can sustain or have the mentality to absolutely explode on the scene. I think that first goal he scored in preseason where he passed it to Salah, and Salah had to like whip it back to him last second kind of showed that he hasn't quite gotten the confidence. Maybe that's solved by a run of games. I think he does have the abilities to absolutely blitz, but I don't know if it's with our system. I don't know if he can play the intricate passing, the kind of 1-2 touches, and really thrive in a Liverpool formation like that. So I know that's an unpopular opinion, and I hope I'm proven wrong because I want to see him succeed. It seems like he has a lot of passion. It seems like he's got a lot of heart, but I just wouldn't put him ahead of Gakpo or Jota at this point, and certainly not Luis Diaz. So I don't see how he gets in the team as much unless injuries start happening.
I'm very much with Dana. I think Sarah is going to be absolutely the top scorer. But I'm with you. I've gone for Salah as well. I've definitely gone for Salah.
I guess it's a new six, James. We set our new sixes.
Sarah, I'll take it. The next category is Premier League signing of the season. So who do you think is going to be the absolute best signing of the Premier League season? Who is going to make the biggest difference to their team's achievement and is going to make the absolute biggest difference that they can possibly make in their team? Who's going to elevate them way beyond what they've already achieved? Put it in the chat. Let us know who you think. There is one name that has dominated ours, and that is Alexis McAllister. Dan, I mean, you went for Gary McAllister, but I'm assuming you meant Alexis. I did that with Jeffrey.
No, his name's Gary. I just his name's Gary McAllister now because they called him Gary during the preseason. That's just stuck with me as well. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, Alexis McAllister is probably going to be the best signing because 35 million. He can do everything that we want, and he's 24. Like, he's pretty much going to be Thiago, but healthy, available, pressing machine that we want him to do. I think it's funny right now because I think McAllister's our best 10, our best 8, and our best 6 right now. Now, granted, we don't have a 6, so, that's kind of like by default. But at this point in time, he can just do so much. Like, the fact that we got him over a team like Manchester City, over an Arsenal, is just absolutely insane. Because there's nothing that those other midfielders can do that he can also not do. He may not be Rodri's like height and tall, and may not get Rodri's tactical fouls and his preference to avoid a yellow card forever, for all time, but he will be the signing of the season.
Now, Helio, you went with Moussa Diaby, Charlie, Webb, not Charlie. Can't say his surname. Also went with Moussa Diaby. There is one name that I have been all over our chat about that someone selected as signing of the season. Now, Harmony, you actually think that this might actually be potentially the signing of the season, and I think it's absolutely chaos. Tonali, signing of the season. It's not who you went for. This is a demo take.
Yes. Thank you for clearing that up because
just want to put that out. That's fine. But you defended him for a moment.
Because I just feel like he's the type of player that they need. And I believe he's going to have such an impact on that team because of the composure he has, the way he can win the ball, the way he can progress the ball as well. He's actually I wish we signed him. Because he is such a great player. And I think AC Milan, I don't think they wanted to sell him, but they had to because they're kind of in a financial situation right now, which they had to get rid of him. But I just believe that Newcastle's just got a player on their hand, and he's going to be unbelievable this season. Honestly, he's going to be so good.
Harmony, did you put Newcastle in your top 4?
No, I think they'll get 5th though. I do believe they'll get 5th. I don't think they'll get top 4. I think they'll get 5th.
Harmony's take though, is it? Tonali's not.
Oh,
Harmony's
okay.
take.
It's not my take. I didn't put him on. I put
Okay.
McAllister as my signing of the season. I put McAllister as my signing of the season, but I can understand why they put Tonali up there because he's a great signing. He's a great signing.
He's a great signing, but to be player of the season, he's going to have to. This is for me. He's going to have to elevate Newcastle beyond what they achieved, and they achieved 3rd.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to make a dip, a bit like what Van Dijk did. He took us from 7th to title challenge. So they've got to go deep in the Champions League, and he's got to be central to it all, or really challenge for the title. And I just don't see it. Our secret Arsenal fan, by the way, and I will out the Arsenal fan towards the end, has gone for Declan Rice, which for the exact same reason, a number 6 is not going to be, for me, the number 1. A couple have gone for Gvardiol. In fact, we've got 4 votes for Gvardiol. Sobo's got 3 or 4 votes. And there is 1 cheeky vote from JK for Elise if he goes. And I believe you mean if he goes. I think he means to Man City, but I've seen JK in the chat, so he can clarify that at some point.
Didn't he pick Dwight McNeil the other season too? So I think Jay's got a point.
Dwight McNeil will come off a season of no goals and no assists in 38 games as a winger. I'm with Kev. I think it ends in tears. I don't think he wants to be there. You saw how happy he was with that shirt.
Yeah.
So for me, I think the majority feel McAllister. I think when we saw him playing against Darmstadt, where he was just passing the ball everywhere across the ground. So Trent was doing these lob balls and McAllister was doing these driven ground balls. I think just from an attacking perspective, it looked spectacular. So I would have probably gone Nkunku if he didn't get injured because he was a hell of a player at Leipzig. I just don't know if he'll fit in at Chelsea. I think the bigger problem is Chelsea than it is Nkunku. So, next topic. Premier League flop of the season. Unsurprisingly, we have 4 votes for Tonali in this, but I'm not going to get into this now, Damo. Let us know in the chat who you think your flop of the season is. Unsurprisingly, someone's put a name in there after I voted. So I voted for flop of the season. I went for Holland, or whatever his name is. Basically, the guy with the broken back. Probably not going to play for the rest of the season. Other names: Havertz, Onana, Tonali, Mason Mount. Damo went with the player Spurs have signed, Maddison. Dan, who do you think is going to be flop of the season?
So I voted Andre Onana, this is weird. I actually think Onana makes United a better football playing team, but I think he's going to be the flop of the season because I think they're just going to concede more goals. Because the one thing about Manchester United is that the way Ten Hag is changing them is becoming a better possession side, but their defense is still absolutely terrible. Like the fact that David De Gea, is what it kept them in so many games because they would just scrape a 1-0. Someone mentioned Arsenal. United got top 4 by just scraping 1-0s where they scored a goal and then just held on for dear life. And Onana's just not as good as a shot stopper as David De Gea. Even though David De Gea is not good with his feet, Onana is it's going to be a situation where you replace Pepe Reina with Simon Mignolet or Luis Karius. It's like you're getting neither good. You're not getting shot stopping or penalty saving, and you're not getting good distribution.
I tend to agree with what Muse said. It can take 1 or 2 seasons for a goalkeeper to learn the league, especially the Premier League. I mean, Alisson took a next level up the season after. So, but the fact he got lobbed, I think.
Yeah, for the halfway line.
Creates that pressure, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't agree with Jamie's there because it's one of those things where you can tell if the keeper has it or not. Like when Kepa came into Chelsea, you just saw that he just couldn't do it. And they brought in Edouard Mendy, who it's so weird that he left Chelsea because he was probably their signing of the season for a couple of years. And Allison, I mean, you came in, you watched Allison play, and you just already knew he had it. Like you can tell if a goalkeeper has it or not when you watch them play, and and they're in training. Like even Klopp said, like, you know, when he said Allison, it's like he's like, what a goalkeeper.
Completely, I agree. I think there's something missing for me in that keeper. I think he's going to get lobbed a lot, and I think if I can get the bet where Sobo will lob him at some point this season, I will take whatever bet that is. Harmony, the chat are saying Harry Maguire, West Ham, is going to be the flop of the season. What do you think about that? Because obviously West Ham haven't signed anyone. I think the fans are very much Moyes out at the moment. He's getting a lot of pressure. Yeah, they won the Great European Cup, but I think sometimes West Ham's biggest challenge is their own fans because it never seems to be everyone moving in the same direction. And I think signing Maguire might just be even more pressure.
Yeah, for me, it's like, how can I put it? I don't know if he's going to be flop of the season, to be honest, because he's really a flop. So I don't know how he can get any more worse than what he really is. So it's confusing. I don't know.
Accepted.
I think people are just picking him because it's such an easy target. Yeah, so it makes sense, to be honest with you. But I do. I see Mason Mount flopping for Man United. Yes, I think the system that the play doesn't suit him. I think he would have been a better player if he came to Liverpool because I think he's a Klopp player all around. Honestly, he's like a Gini Wijnaldum, but he has better finishing. Like honestly, but I don't see him working out for Man United, and I just feel like he kind of just wasted his career going to that team because it's not going to suit. It's not going to suit him at all. So that's what I have personally.
And Drew, you went for, and the only person in the chat and in anything. So again, Drew, it's you. You've gone for the £105 million man, Declan Rice, flop of the season.
You really hate Arsenal, don't you?
I do, but I do. I have way too many Arsenal friends who talk a lot of shit. But I'll tailor it down because I think I just don't think for £100 million you should be just a game changer. You should be Arsenal's title challenge. They should be winning the title. If you're signing £100 million players, you're bringing in that much investment. The level of hype that's been put on him, I just don't see it. Last season, I called Calvin Phillips as the flop of the season, and I arguably would pick that I was right on that one. This one, I don't know if I'll be right, but I'm sure that he will not hit those heights that every Arsenal fan and most people think he'll hit. I think he's not a huge upgrade on Xhaka. I don't think he's going to have the consistency. I think if he gets injured, when you put that price tag on a player and they're not having a Erling Haaland effect in the league, I just think it's very hard to meet those expectations. That's why I put Declan Rice, because I think he's just going to pretty much ghost the season. I don't think he changes Arsenal. I don't think he makes them title winners, and that's the step up from last season. So if you're not making that step up, why are you I get that you need them, but I just £100 million, that's for me, that's a flop. That's a bad buy.
Let me ask you. Can I ask you a question for a second, Drew? Let's say if we signed Declan Rice, do you still feel like he would have been a flop?
If we signed Declan Rice for £100 million, I would be very confused. It's same I don't think you get the same levels. That's not his fault, but similar with Caicedo, it's I wouldn't pay £100 million for Caicedo. I don't think we if we did buy him, I'd be okay, it's not our money. I just think that kind of buy would be just poor. Michael Edwards, it's what would he be doing if he was here? What kind of signings would he get? The deals that he made. I don't think it's just for me the price, and I think Declan Rice could do fine, but combine that, is he £100 million player? Is that money going to be justified when you look at Arsenal? Can their striker situation? I don't think they solved all of their problems, and I think that was a waste of money in that context.
Yeah, I agree with Drew, and I take Drew's points. I think also when you're spending that much money and that many wages on Declan Rice, you're putting a lot into the idea that Rice is going to play, 38 league games plus Liverpool games as well, would have booked into and I think there is this thing. If you're spending £100 million on a player, you want that player to absolutely transform your team. I don't think Rice transforms Arsenal. He just raises their floor. I don't think he makes their ceiling higher, but he raises their floor. It's the same thing with Sandro Tonali. Like, I don't think they're signings of the seasons because it just makes your floor higher. But the ceiling of Arsenal is still, I think, 80 points. Arsenal's not going to get 90 points because they don't have someone that's going to score, 25 plus goals for them.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have two players that are going to do that where they're going to get all their goals from. And I think, like, Arsenal will be solid. I think they'll have 75 to 80 points this year, but I don't think Rice is going to make them, like, absolutely amazing.
I get that. Next question for the chat. Which youth player will break into the LFC first team this year? Now, a couple of people have given answers to this, which I'm going to already say are wrong. Stefan Bajcetic has already done it. Curtis Jones has already done it. So you can, Mihai, no, he's not breaking into the first team. He's already part of the first team. There is one name that comes head and shoulders above everyone else with this who's going to break into the first team, and it's Ben Doak, Dan. Do you think Salah's going to give him any minutes? Do you think Salah's going to take the back seat on anything? Or Doak's going to get game time?
Well, Salah's got AFCON, so there is a period where Doak could get like 4 or 5 or 6 games in a row. I would be worried if we were starting Doak, more than a couple of games a season. I would think it would be more the fact that Ben Doak's going to get like 30 to 15 minutes when we're winning games as well. And, I think there will be a lot more rotation with Europa League games, even though I think Salah's going to say, like, I want to play them all. I think there is an argument that Ben Doak gets, 10 to 15 games this year, 10 to 15 90s roughly as well. I think to be a bit of a contrarian and just to throw a little bit out there, I think the person we may actually see a lot more of is possibly Kwanzaa. I think we might see Kwanzaa if there's not a defender signed this summer, because at this point, we're getting closer to the window. Lavia looks like it's about to be done potentially, based on all the journalism that's coming out. I think we might see a situation where Kwanzaa gets 15 games this year, and he comes in for Robinson and Tsimikas, or he comes in for Gomez or Trent, and they play like a back three at times.
Now, Harmony, you must be sitting uncomfortably with this one because you're on the fence this time. You went for Doak or Kwanzaa, didn't you? So what is it that makes you think he's going to break into the first team this year?
Who, Doak or Kwanzaa?
Kwanzaa, not Doak. We know we know what Doak means.
Oh yeah, we know why. Yeah, okay. I just think he had a great preseason. Honestly, he showed composure. He showed maturity. That block he did against Bayern Munich, that was spectacular. For him to read the game and to understand that was a danger spot, just made me realize, yes, we got a player on our hand. And I think to let him go on loan, yes, it would be great for him, but I feel like if he stays in the team and he learns from Van Dijk and he just picks up from Van Dijk, he's built like Van Dijk a little bit. Like, when I look at him and I see him play, he just reminds me of Van Dijk a little bit. And I feel like having someone like him learning from Van Dijk and coming in, I think he'll be such a great player. And he can save us such a lot of money if he performs this season. Within next season, we don't really have to spend too much on the centre back because we already got one. We'll probably just have to bring in one more instead of bringing two centre backs. So I think he's going to be such a great player.
Yeah, and I think that's why we haven't been linked heavily with a defender besides Colwell, is the fact that I think that they've looked at Kwanzaa and said, like, okay, we can get 10 to 15 games out of what's his first name? I forget now already. I was going to call him Jeffrey Kwanzaa. It's what's his first name? Can someone tell me? It's not Jeffrey. I'm just going Jeffrey now. Jarrell. Close enough. Jarrell Kwanzaa.
I got a question though. Do Harmony and Dan get half a point if their split decisions win?
This isn't a graded exercise. Well, you get no points. If you can't back your own judgment, 100%, no points. Instant fail.
Oh, come on. That's not fair. That's not fair. You can't do that.
I called first manager sacked. I had that on the money, and so I just went automatically. Like let's. I've already won the game. The game's over. This is just a.
That's
just
a
victory
false
lap.
start, man. False start. It didn't
No.
count.
Listen. If you look on Twitter, everyone's crying that the season has already started. So I win by default. Like everyone's just like
No,
the
you
season
see,
started.
you got Kevin out here being excited because he feels like he's gonna win. Now he's like, yeah, I love it. That's not fair. We should still get a point for it.
Kev went with Conor Bradley. I know you forgot, Kev. There you go. Conor Bradley. Now, the next big question is the surprise package for the Premier League this season. Now, the main one that's come out is Aston Villa. Harmony, you said that. I went with that. Damo went with that. Why do you think Villa are going to be so special this year, Harmony?
One is the manager, because we've seen what this guy's done with over there in Spain, how he transformed that team. They weren't such a great team, but they ran through that Europa League, knocked out Man United, which was great. So thank you for that. And I believe he won it one season with them when he was there. So, and what he's done, how he transformed that team last season from when he took over with Steven Gerrard was just spectacular. I think they were showing it in the charts that points that were made during the time that he signed. I think he was like in the top three. Villa was like in the top three teams that had the most points with him behind, managing them. So I think he's just going to be such a great guy for that team. And the signings that they made, I feel like it's just going to improve them and take them to a whole nother level. And I just can't wait. To be honest, I'm actually looking forward to just watch their games. Even though Aston Villa is like a bogey team for us somehow, I don't know why. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that team because I feel like he's going to do such a great job for that team.
Villa have always been difficult, like even way back when, wasn't it? For some reason, just couldn't get it right. Now, there's a couple of outrageous ones in here, Drew, and I'm going to give you the three that shock me the most of surprise packages, and you can tell me which one. And I don't think you're any of these, by the way. So obviously, we've got Damo that reckons that Brentford are getting relegated, but we've got Matty and Race that are like, no, they're going to be the surprise package. They're going to do really well. We've got Mihai saying Tottenham are going to be the surprise package in the Premier League this year. And JK choosing Wolves to be the surprise package in the Premier League. I don't know what he means by surprise. Maybe he means like a Derby level surprise that they get like 20 points and get relegated. But which of those do you think would surprise you the most if they were the surprise package?
Damo said Brentford was going to get relegated.
Oh yeah, that's his prediction for relegation. You went Palace, he went Brentford.
Okay, I think that one's still the biggest claim, but I don't know. Wolves doing well with the mess that they're in is pretty rough. Don't want to throw Jay under the bus too much, but he's putting the sign on his back at this point. But I don't know. I think it's all like it's interesting because, like you said, it's like what is surprise package mean? Like when you guys are talking about Aston Villa, I think they did amazing last season. They kind of filtered out at the end, but like what constitutes a surprise package? For me, that means doing something well and beyond expectations. So it's like, is Aston Villa finishing in Europa League spots or Conference League? Is that really a surprise? Because I think that's what they're aiming for, like that kind of levels.
Yeah, so I think it has to be a big step above, a bit like what Brighton were last year. Brighton were fighting for Europe out of being sort of bottom half of the table. That's a surprise package for me. Like if Everton were to get anywhere near the top half and not get relegated, that would probably surprise me, but I wouldn't call them a surprise package. They would need to get like top 7 or into Europe. That would be a big surprise package.
For me, that's the more interesting thing. Like trying to pick who can make that jump up to the contention for the Europe places, like the smaller Europe places. I think those would be surprise packages.
Now, I have got the survey. I could dig it out, but I think you are right, Damo. I think that is what you picked as a surprise package last year. Dan, Helio puts it really well. Ange Postecoglou will be a Greek tragedy without Kane. They will not make top 10. Do you think it'll be that bad?
No. I think Tottenham are going to be sixth to seventh. My surprise package this year was Nottingham Forest, because I think they'll actually break into the top 10 this year with Steve Cooper. One, I think Steve Cooper's a really good manager, and they haven't had really a lot of chaos there. They just signed Matt Turner as a goalkeeper, so they are getting better. They are shedding a lot of that championship excess, and they're starting to get Premier League quality players. And I think Cooper, I think there are other 10 teams that are just have so many other issues they need to fix. I think Edge Postecoglou is going to do very, very well at Tottenham. If you've seen Spurs' preseason, they look really, 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 really fun to play against. I mean, I think this is a situation this year where Spurs are going to be a lot of like 6-3, 5-4 shootouts this year with their team, because he's just like Spurs. If I'm a Tottenham fan this year, it's a really weird season because Kane may go for 100 million euros or whatever he's going, like 96 million pounds or whatever, to Bayern Munich, but they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year. I think they'll probably finish 8th, and Forest will be right behind them, but they'll be pushing for Europe for most of the season, I believe.
Now, second to last category, the manager sack race. Now, I know a lot of people are saying Lopetegui's gone, or blah, 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 blah.
Already won.
Right. That's unless you gave me 2 names, and then you've already lost. There's a couple of shockers in here, and so I'm going to give you some names. In fact, I think Harmony, you went for a shocking name.
I don't think mine was shocking. I generally don't think mine was shocking. I don't.
Who did you go for? I've forgotten.
I went for Vincent Kompany.
But you went for Vincent Kompany. You're the only person to go for Vincent Kompany. Why do you think he's going to get the first to go?
Because, like I kind of stated when we were off air, I said that it's always difficult for a manager that's coming from the Championship to maintain that team in the Premier League. The stats does not sit well for him, honestly. And I think, yes, he's a great manager. I think that step up is going to either be his downfall or his success. I might be proven wrong, but I just feel like with the team, they haven't really made that many signings to really make me feel confident to be like, yeah, they're going to stay up. Their playing style is great, but I believe that come Christmas time, he's going to be under a lot of pressure, and the board's going to be under a lot of pressure, that to the point where they're going to get rid of him. So that's the reason why I feel like he's not going to stay there for that long. Like I said, I could be wrong, but I just don't see that favor him coming up from the Championship, and it's not going to be as easy as it was for him last season to manage that team. So, yeah.
Helio thinks it's the real deal, but to me, that's not the most shocking one that we've got in here. The most shocking ones come from Damo for me.
Oh,
and he's gone for Thomas Frank to be the first to be gone, the Brentford manager. So Brentford to be relegated, Thomas Frank to be the first to go. Dan, do you see it?
No, even if Brentford get relegated, I don't sack Thomas Frank, because I mean, listen, Brentford don't sack managers. They didn't sack Dean Smith when they had him as manager. He left at that time to go to Villa, I believe, in 2015, 2016, I believe so. And then they brought Thomas Frank in, who was his assistant. So Thomas Frank's been there forever. Like it'd be like them sacking Klopp. Like, and even if we got relegated, I don't think we would sack Klopp. Like at that point, everyone might just hunt down the owners, but but I don't think they would ever sack Klopp anyway. And if Brentford get relegated, I think Thomas Frank just walks by mutual consent, but I don't think he's the first one sacked by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. Now, there is another name that I've seen that shocked me to some degree, and I don't think it's as shocking as your name, Damo. I really don't. But the other one that's come up, Drew, is Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's name has come up 4 times in our chat as a potential first manager to go, and it's gone from Kev, who gave me 2 names, so it don't count. Matty, Tico, all have gone for Eddie Howe, first manager gone. Drew, do you see it? Do you see Eddie Howe getting let go?
Not first manager let go. I think that's the interesting one. Like Thomas Frank, Eddie Howe. It's like, do you really think they're going to be the first manager sacked? I don't think that's anywhere near close. I think Newcastle could get rid of Eddie Howe, and that's might be a likely scenario down the line. But I don't think they'd do it mid-season, like unless there were positions in jeopardy, like top four if they were fighting for that, etc. Otherwise, I don't see them getting rid of him mid-season. So that's an odd one for me. I think, especially first sacking. Who won last year? Was it Scott Parker? He was the first one out the door.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he got sacked after 9-0.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of other teams that would get rid of their managers sooner when things aren't going well, and I think you have to look at sides that are coming from relegation or promotion from the championship side, because I think it's one of those ones, if you don't get it right quickly, you need to look at long term and what's most likely going to keep you up if that's your ambition. So I can back Harmony's decision on Vincent Kompany from that angle. Myself, I put Luton's manager is out the door, and I think Sam Allardyce might get a job down the line trying to keep someone up at the end of the season. But I think
Sam
it's going to be
Allardyce.
one of the relegated.
Allardyce.
Yeah.
You on mute, Harmony?
Oh, Harmony, you're mute.
I got a good angle with the whole Eddie Howe situation. I feel like he could get sacked, and they might try sign their Villa manager.
Oh, Emery.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
I can see that happening, because I feel like they're just two steps away from actually challenging. They need a great manager, which he will be. Players are going to come and want to play for him, and they got a boatload of money, so that could happen. I can see that as an angle as well. So yeah.
They wanted Emery. They wanted Emery when they first took over, didn't they? They were trying to sign him when they took over last year. Something they really, really wanted to get him.
Yeah.
I could see that, but Emery did turn them down, and I feel like Emery would. I feel like he turned them down for a reason when he was at Villarreal. The thing about Eddie Howe, and I could see him being sacked, is that if you look at Eddie Howe's managerial career, every single season he manages a team, their defense gets worse and worse and worse. It's the Roberto Martinez, Brendan Rodgers effect that, the longer he stays in the job, the worse the defense gets. So I could see a situation where Newcastle start the year sluggish, they're conceding goals, the goals dry up, they start getting whacked. Even last year when we played them at St. James's, oddly enough, if Nick Pope doesn't get sent off, I think we whacked them 4 or 5-0. There is a situation where I think Newcastle are sitting like 8th, and they're like last in the group stages and the Champions League, and they might sack them.
I agree with you, but that wouldn't be the first, would it? A whole heap of chaos will have gone on in the Premier League before then.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, maybe, but also like they were looking to replace
Moyes might have gone through 3 jobs by then.
I don't think West Ham are going to sack David Moyes though, because he did win them a cup. Like, he is trying to do this rebuild. Like, yes, West Ham fans are absolutely insane. They won 1 trophy for the first time in 60 years, and now they're acting like they're prime Manchester United, like demanding like that. Thinking they're going to win a title every year. But like, I don't see Moyes being the first one sacked. Like, who said Luton? James, did you say Luton, or Drew? Did you say Luton?
Drew said it.
Drew. I just don't think Luton are going to sack their manager, because like they haven't signed enough players to be a Premier League team. So like I think they're prepared to go down, and I don't think they would sack their manager, because I don't think they have any plans of staying up. Same thing with Sheffield United.
I think he's a good shout.
But they poured so much money into Vincent Kompany. Like this is so Harmony. I would agree with you if they didn't dedicate so much time and energy to completely like throwing everyone out, getting rid of Dyche's all of Dyche's gang, and then replacing with all of Kompany's boys. Like, yeah, I could see Vincent Kompany going down. I could also see Vincent Kompany being like 12th, and like they're just good the whole season. It's like when Sheffield United's first year under Chris Wilder. I could see it collapsing after 1 year. I could see him being the first one sacked next year, but this year they poured so much money into this project, I don't think he'd be the first one sacked.
Who's your shout now, Dan?
Listen, I already won this in Lopetegui. What? Who's my first one now? I think the first one. I think it'll be Howe.
Because we've been going an hour and 10 minutes, and we have one more question, so we're over time. And this is the big one. So, again, put it in the chat. Which cups will Liverpool win this year? So we've got the Premier League, the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the Europa League. Which cups, put it in the chat, do you think Liverpool will win this year? Now, unsurprisingly, our secret Arsenal fan has gone with none. But also 3 other people in LFC Transfer Room have gone with none as well. And I'm going to name and shame because we should, which is Anthony, Nathan, and Matt, who's already had his America card taken away by Dan today. Thinks Liverpool will win nothing. What an exciting way to start this season. We're going to do nothing. I know, Helio, you've gone for nothing. Drew, what did you go with?
I went Europa League, League, and League Cup. I mean, I don't see why you would go in with this kind of prediction without hope, or without, wishing for the best. Like, realistically, I think maybe League Cup and Europa League, but I think those are actually achievable, and we should be winning those. Premier League's my red tinted glasses, but I'm always going to back my team. Until it's mathematically impossible, I always believe in Liverpool, and I'm not going to live my life any other way than having that optimism.
Nice.
Dan, you went with Premier League and Europa League. I mean, everyone wants to get to Dublin this year, don't we? That's the thing we've had in the chat. We want to be in Dublin. Why did you go for those two?
One, I think we'll be probably the best team in the Europa League this year, unless someone mad drops out from the Champions League. And I think it's, getting to the final should be the goal this year. Obviously, if we lose out in the semifinals, I don't think that's a bad thing. But, if everyone stays fit, I said this before we even signed Lavia. So if we are able to utilize our youth players and keep our first teamers fit and rotate them out, I think there's no reason why we can't win both. You don't need to put your first team in every single time you play a Europa League game. You can put in some youth players, some squad players, and rotate it out and probably still win a game 2-0.
And that's the thing for me, Drew. This is why I'm really behind the Europa League. That's my big prediction for us, because once it goes to knockout, most of these European clubs will have not experienced Anfield at this bigger Anfield, louder Anfield. Especially if we're starting to make good progress. Let's hypothetically say we sign a 6 in January. It's hard to look against us in the Europa League, isn't it? Dan's right. We are the best team in that league before it starts, and unless one of the absolute powerhouses drops out, which looks very unlikely, it should be ours.
Yeah, I think the hunger for trophies is there too, with the older players in the squad and the new guys. I was always upset in the first few seasons when Klopp didn't take the domestic cup seriously. I know he wanted to build on bigger things, but look at the FA Cup and the League Cup. I know it was a letdown. We didn't take home one of the bigger trophies, but those days when we were in Wembley, that's a trophy for me. That's a great day out. Watching from America, I love to see it, but yeah, the Europa League, I think you have the experience of the guys in the locker room winning big trophies, wanting to win, wanting to add that trophy wall at Liverpool is absolutely brilliant. Showing how much we've won each time they take down take down the old numbers, put up a new one, all that kind of stuff. It builds on the reputation, the legacy of the club, and I think every single player wants to be a part of that, wants to look back at their career and be like, hey, we brought Liverpool, we brought home these titles, these trophies. And Europa League in particular, everything that you guys have been saying is spot on. Liverpool have the pedigree, they have Anfield, and they have the players who could take it and bring that trophy home. Dublin too, that'd be a hell of a final.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, just a quick word for Jamie and anyone else. Unfortunately, there doesn't look to be any more Lavia progress, and what we're seeing is from the higher sources of Liverpool, is it saying Liverpool and Southampton are still having a conversation when it comes to Lavia? They're seemingly starting to do things properly behind closed doors in communication without making all these bids public and making us look like absolute fools. So there isn't really much to tell you on the Lavia deal at the moment. I think anyone that's of any high reputable source is saying talks continue between Liverpool and Southampton, and that's a positive sign. It's not saying we're putting in bids and back and forth and stuff like that. But it's looking very much like we're going to have to pay the 50 million that they wanted right at the start, and we've clowned around and ruined ourselves in terms of duration and stuff like that, which almost certainly means Lavia would not be available for Chelsea even if we got the deal moving tomorrow because of Premier League registrations and stuff like that. This has been Premier League predictions. And remember one thing, Damo predicted Brentford would go down and Thomas Frank would be fired first. And our secret Arsenal fan is Millwall. The amount of things he's predicted Arsenal to win is outrageous. So this is LFC Transfer Room. Thank you very much for everyone getting involved in the predictions. We will catch you on the next one. Take care.